the land? I said, who wanna know the land? My papa's land. My papa's land. Africa, it's my papa's land. Now, hear me. We are no fools on the hill. My people are no fools on the hill. You must let my people go, so we can rule from Cape to Cairo. You must free my people's hands, so we can rule our purpose land. I wanna know who owns the land. Who wanna know who owns the land? Okay, now listen carefully. Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So, Africa must be ruled by Africans. I wanna know who owns the land. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. We must rule our purpose land. I say, we wanna know who owns the land. I wanna know who owns the land. Aslan, hey, Papa's land. Papa's land. Papa's land. It must be free. Angola wants to know who owns the land. Mozambique wants to know who owns the land. Namibia wants to know who owns the land. I say, someone wants to know who owns the land. Zimbabwe wants to know who owns the land. African freedom fighters want to know who owns the land. Papa's land. Now listen to the history. We've been here since creation. We've been here since creation. What else do you know? Since the time of sun and sand. Since the time of moon and stars.
Turning them out for good. We are asking them to leave until when the times are better, for them to come back and live with us if they want to. This is not a punitive measure that we are taking against them, but we must take it if we should save our people and save our land and regain our independence. This broadcast is very, very critical, and I would love as many as possible to tune in tonight. If you are watching on television, ABC, Amber TV, on Ground Zero, please, at this moment, I ask you, invite somebody to watch with you. I am about to bring you information that you may never get it anywhere else. You may not can observe a solemn day in recognition or with sympathies for our brothers, our sisters, our parents, our children who were massacred in the Ndonga Mantung, February the 14th. We have chosen this Friday the 28th, in a matter of 2 days or a day, to recognize these victims of French Cameroon massacre, genocide in our territory. So please, Ground Zero, take note. No going out, no going anywhere on Friday. Let us do this in remembrance again of our brothers and sisters, our families who were massacred in Ndonga Mantung. And we can also do so in remembrance of all those who have been killed, all over Ambazonia in the course of this fight for the independence of Ambazonia. So please, let's mark the date, mark the calendar. Friday the 28th is our National Day of Mourning. And then, of course, we also have coming up in London, England, the huge march, the biggest of National Day, when it's to march to every diplomatic mission, to express our disgust at the massacres that the world leaders are allowed to take place or go unchallenged in our territory. We've got to prepare some of those gory images. Take it to your diplomatic missions. Take it to your state representatives, your parliamentarians, your senators. March to their offices, carrying those signs, those placards, to let them know the kind of massacre, the degree of massacre, those mass graves images, those mass murders like in Bali, like in Ngaraba, like in Tumbo, like in Pinyin, all those destroyed, burnt images of our people. Please, and to face the terrorist army of French Cameroon, we've got to equip them. We've got to empower them. You can do that by identifying your local government area and supporting them financially. Every local government area and every county, of course, they have a fundraising going on now. They have a fundraiser going on now. Look for your local government and for your county. Please join. The man in Ngaraba who gave information, who helped the United Nations agency that visited that area to investigate the killings there. He was on Monday. Malam Danjuma was on Monday abducted. He was visited in the mosque by men of the underworld from French Cameroon, who were told that they were dressed looking like Ambazonian Restoration Forces. They walked into the mosque where Malam Danjuma was, invited him outside, and before he knew, they pulled out knives. And took him away. As I come to you today, it is Wednesday. He was picked up on Monday. Nobody has since heard from him. No one knows whether he is alive. Now, I send this message so that La République du Cameroon officials know, we have no doubt that Malam Danjuma was picked up from the mosque by French Cameroon soldiers. This guy is looking like Amba Restoration Forces. We remind La République du Cameroon, we hope that Malam Danjuma is not going to be another statistics. We hope so. We are looking out for him. All right. We are looking out for him and others who live in fear. I'm going to come back to this subject at the end of the day because I have somebody on ground zero who has some more detailed information on this subject. After the presentation that I bring to you at this moment, I will bring this comrade to come back and with the details of this information. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to take a short minute break outside to run a commercial from our sponsors. It is very, very important that I do that. After this commercial.
Are you tired of going from dealership to dealership looking for that used car that perfectly fits both your lifestyle and your budget? Are you bored with the same old tactics, the same old styles, and the same old disappointments when you don't find exactly what you want? Are you frustrated because of bad credit or tired of being rejected of in-house financing? Are you tired of going from garage to garage for a car? How about that filthy old car that you used to drive? Are you done? Welcome to the new experience. Barrico Auto Sales has sold and financed cars to over 50,000 people across the country. Our exclusive in-house financing model allows us to provide flexible options for all. Enjoy low rates, free pickup, and award-winning customer service. Reserve today. Barrico Auto helps make car renting easy and seamless for all of our customers. Our financing options allow you to shop our vehicle inventory for the exact used car, truck, or van that best fits your needs. Car selection and customer satisfaction are of great importance to us. We provide the best mechanical repairs, and our services take just minutes. Detail your car with us and get out of that filthy old smell and into something sweet. We will even do your oil change at the lowest rate. And please do not forget that with Barrico Auto Sale, you own and drive your car before you even have to pay us. So come on down and visit us and drive away with your new car.
Barrico Autos, own and drive before you pay. 240-486-4664. www.barrico.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome back. I now will take you into this very, very critical presentation. Again, this is a very, very critical presentation. It is not just another broadcast. It is a very, very, very important, critical broadcast, and I would love you, please go ahead, invite somebody, invite other Ambazonians, anywhere that they may be, let them get this information. Why? Why do we want Francophones to leave Ambazonia? Why do we want Francophones to leave Ambazonia? That is the subject of the message that I bring to you today. And again, we want as many as possible to listen to this message. Now, this is what I am going to do. This is what I am going to do at the end of this broadcast. I will open the phone lines. I will open the phone lines briefly for a few questions as usual, and then I will end the broadcast. And what I will also do is we are putting this into a documentary that we want every Ambazonian at the end of the day to share, to pass out to any community, any quarters where you can, for people to understand where our decision is coming from. It is very, very important. Good evening once more. The debate has been tense. The debate as to whether or not Francophones resident in Ambazonia should leave or not. It dominates social media discussion platforms today, most especially as the interim government of Ambazonia recently made it an official policy for the Francophones in the southern Cameroons Ambazonia to leave, and to live in peace, not in pieces. Those who have argued against it fear severe repercussions as hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Ambazonians live in French Cameroon. But the majority who support the policy say it is the right thing to do. They want the pain and the agony of the war not only to be felt by Ambazonians, they want Francophones to feel it too. The argument of the interim government in making it official policy goes beyond these rather rhetorical and sentimental arguments. It is a decision based on assembled facts and data. And it is just a tip of the iceberg I bring to you today. What you are about to hear What you are about to listen is an objective point-by-point argument that should convince every Ambazonian, home and abroad, that there are more advantages for the Francophones to leave our territory than the disadvantages. Before delving into the subject, however, it is important I provide you with some background on how La République du Cameroon citizens first began to flood several Ambazonia towns and growing their populations, particularly those towns that share common boundaries with other towns in their own country, that is, in French Cameroon. In the late 1940s, several Africans started organizing themselves into pressure groups or call them unions. It is but safe to say that the unions eventually became political parties which clamored for freedom and expressed their desire to break free from colonial rule. In East Cameroon, or former East Cameroon as it was then called, a colony under French rule, a few gentlemen of the Bassas and Bamilekis extraction met at a bar in the Bassa quarters in Douala and came up with the idea of forming a pressure group, which eventually becomes a political party called the UPC, Cameroon's People's Union. That was on April 10, 1948. Prominent among the gentlemen were the celebrated Iyobe, a Bassa man, and Ernest Ouanji, a Bamileki man, both of blessed memories. From the onset, France did not take the idea of the UPC seriously, not until 1953, when the party's membership began to swell rapidly and its leaders, radical chauvinist nationalists, let France know that they would not settle for anything. They would not settle for anything short of absolute political and economic independence for their country, La République du Cameroon. France, on its part, was not going to allow such radical ideology to fester since its economic survival to date depended on looted wealth from its colonies. France's response was merciless brutality. Sound familiar, right? French soldiers rampaged through Bamileki land and Bassa land, killing and razing down villages indiscriminately. Doesn't this also sound familiar? The French launched a manhunt for UPC leadership, particularly Iyobe and Ernest Ouanji. This operation gave birth to the bloody Maquisard guerrilla movement as we know it. On the other side of the Mongol, which was then West Cameroon, called it Southern Cameroon or Ambazonia, which was under British colonial rule, two prominent political figures had emerged in the persons of John Ngu Foncha in Bamenda and the Venerable Dr. E.M. Erindele in Boya. As the slaughter of Bassas and Bamilekis intensified in the east, Iyobe and Ernest Ouanji, now in hiding, sent their agents to West Cameroon, to the Southern Cameroons, ladies and gentlemen, to arrange for a meeting with Foncha and Indele, the two political leaders, and it was agreed that they shall meet in Kumba, even though for security reasons Indele did not travel to Kumba for the meeting. He was in agreement that West Cameroon or Southern Cameroons offer refuge to Basas and Bamilekis who were escaping from the barbarism inflicted on their villages. And this also sounds familiar, right? The barbarism by French troops was aided by some natives of the Ewondo clan and Muslims from the north, whose son, Amadou Ahidjo, was colluding with the French. From that Kumba agreement, the southern Cameroons provided refuge, ladies and gentlemen, to thousands of Basas and Bamilekis. And because of the ease of getting to safe localities in Ambazonia, an overwhelming majority of the Basas took up settlements in Tiko, they took up settlements in Motengene, in Victoria and Moyoka. The Bamilekis moved into Kumba, particularly Greater Fiango, specifically Chang quarters and Tancha quarters, Tombel, Santa, Bamenda, particularly in Bamenda. Bamenda was Meta quarters, and Bale, specifically the quarters referred to as Bawak, which accommodated refugees from Bangante, but it has since been provocatively classified a Bamileki fandom inside Bale Nyonga. On September 13, 1958, Inyome was assassinated when his hideout was leaked to French soldiers, who stormed his native village of Bominyebel, Inyong Ekele Division, Marquis Bassa. His bullet-ridden corpse was paraded in the open as a deterrent, a warning to other rebels who would dare raise their heads in their voices. His fellow comrade in arms, Ernest Wonji, who had been on the run, hiding among refugees in Chang quarters, Kumba, turned himself in later in 1970 when the French government promised him that he will not be executed. Unfortunately, East Cameroon's dictator, Amadou Ahidjo, was already clearing out political opponents with the intent to consolidate power. So, he did not heed to French instructions not to kill Ernest Wonji. And so, on January 15, 1971, the day of his assassination, Ernest Wonji refused to be blindfolded and was publicly executed by firing squad in Bafoussam, chief town of Bamileki land. After East Cameroon or French Cameroon annexation of the southern Cameroons in May 1972, Ahidjo asserted his fascistic control over what was referred to as United Republic of Cameroon, and then brought in co-opted Bamilekis and Basas into his cabinet. Nevertheless, that gesture was not enough to erase frightening memories of the barbarism that he had experienced and escaped from. So the refugees who had moved into the southern Cameroons opted to stay in Ambazonia and enjoy the warm hospitality that the indigenes, our people, offered them. They became fully integrated in their Ambazonia host communities and raised their families in absolute tranquility and prosperity. The Basas embarked on educating their children in the superior Anglo-Saxon school system in West Cameroon, and later dominated lucrative positions within CDC, the Cameroon Development Corporation. The Francophones, specifically the Bamilekis, went on to acquire big swaths of forest land in Greater Kumba and Tombel, where they set up huge cocoa and coffee farms. Those of them who went to live in Bamenda and beyond set up shops and other types of petty businesses. Again, that was up in the northern zone. The prosperity of the first wave of Francophone refugees who arrived in the late 1950s and early 1960s in Ambazonia became an incentive for more immigrants from Bamileke land and Basar land to move to Ambazonia. So that by the end of the 1980s, children of refugees who arrived in the late 1950s and early 60s started having their own families. And in the 2000s, grandchildren of the refugees were being born. This is exactly how our big towns in Fako, in Meme, in Kupe Baniguba, and Mezam became flooded with Francophones. It is important to note that between 1966 and 1970, West Cameroon was host not only to refugees from Bamileke land and Basar land, but also to Igbos who were fleeing the Nigerian Civil War that broke out in 1966. Let's now get to the question. Should La République du Cameroon citizens leave Ambazonia and go back? The interim government says absolutely yes. And these are some of our reasonings. Number one, a prominent Francophone is already on record, ladies and gentlemen, as saying just that. If a prominent Bamileke son says so, we too should because, first and foremost, we are owners of our land. If in October 2016 it was okay for Lele Lafrique, La République du Cameroon colonial governor in Bamenda, to instruct his Bamileke brethren to leave Bamenda for safety reasons, then it is absolutely okay for Dr. Sako and the interim government to tell the remaining La République du Cameroon citizens to leave Ambazonia because their safety can no longer be guaranteed, not at all. According to news reports and accounts from our own informants, 3 days after Ambazonians came out en masse, came out in huge numbers to celebrate Independence Day on October 1, 2017, Lele Lafrique advised his Bamileke brethren to leave Bamenda. He was acting on an internal confidential briefing on an impending retributive killing and destruction that was to be unleashed in Ambazonia on Ambazonians. So he did not want his fellow Bamilekes to being incidental victims. As terrorist La République du Cameroon soldiers continue carrying out genocide and other acts of barbarism in Ambazonia, a breaking point has come whereby Ambazonians can no longer take it, and out of frustration and provoke anger, may target La République du Cameroon citizens in their communities for revenge. Therefore, it is for their own good that Dr. Sako and the interim government have advised them to leave before it is too late. Number two, Francophones in Ambazonia are citizens of La République du Cameroon, meaning that it is okay for them to live anywhere in their own country. But that has not been the case. During the last 4 months of 2019, Francophones, Bamilekes in particular, were savagely brutalized. Their shops looted and burned, and they were forced out of their homes, which were then torched. On some occasions, the attacks were carried out in the night. This happened in towns considered to be Paul Biya's native backyard: Bafia, Ebowa, Sang Melima, and in Bamayo, all in French Cameroon. Absolutely no one, and I mean no one, lifted a finger at the perpetrators, and in some cases, law enforcement officials stood by and did nothing. Several of the thugs involved in one of the operations could be heard shouting that the Republic of the South, referring to Paul Biya's South region, was off limits to Bamilekis, and also that they should go home. If regime apologists are saying Ambazonians want to start a war with Francophones if they are driven out, what explanation do they have to give the fact that the Bamilekis have not staged a revenge against Betis who live and work in Bamileki land? What are they saying? Why is Kamto, and I mean here, the political leader of CROM, why is he focusing but on Ambazonia and not on his people who are receiving the brunt of the Betis retribution for Kamto's political adventurism? Why? Why is he so focused only on Ambazonia and his people are chased out of Yaoundé, Bamayo, and the rest? Number 3, the Bassas have laid low and done most of their damage through the involvement of their sons and daughters, ladies and gentlemen, who grew up and schooled in Ambazonia and have joined terrorist La République du Cameroun army and are participating in carrying out genocide and barbarism, even in their childhood communities in our territory. On the contrary, the Bamilekis have been tantalizing and very provocative ever since this struggle escalated in 2016. They have cooperated with the sadistic regime in Yaoundé, making enormous sums of donations to it, which is why it is time for them to go. But I have more examples for you today. When French Cameroon Senai dictator Paul Biya formally declared war on us on November 30, 2017, the calculation was that in a few weeks, the carnage and barbarism inflicted on our people will be so devastating and demoralizing that Ambazonians would give up. That was the calculation. And by giving up, the misguided regime will not need extra funding for the war. That did not happen. It didn't work. Instead, Ambazonians became resilient. About 3 months into the war, the French Cameroon regime started feeling the financial crunch of it. Cash strapped. Soldiers sent to battlefields in remote areas of Ambazonia started making online videos in which they complained bitterly about non-payment of their stipends, and of course starvation had also stepped in. Terrorist La République du Cameroun soldiers who were deployed in strategic localities in the northern zone of Ambazonia got temporal help from colonial governor Lele Lafrique, who organized a secret fundraiser for their benefit, while the regime begged the international community. They begged France, they begged the IMF, China, and the United Nations for money. Lele Lafrique summoned Bamileki business magnates in Bamenda and told them to contribute towards funding the war in the northern zone. Lele Lafrique warned that if Ambazonians were to succeed, that their lucrative investment, Bamileki's lucrative investments, would be in jeopardy. Prominent among those in attendance and co-chair of the fundraiser was Mr. Amu Mezam. So we allowed Francophones to come and live comfortably in our communities, make money, and then use the money to pay for the killing of our sons and daughters, our parents, our mothers, and our fathers, and cause massive destruction of our communities, right? It is important to note that the fundraiser led by Lele Lafrique took place long before the regime in Yaoundé came up with a scam to collect money in the name of humanitarian relief. Do you remember that scam called humanitarian relief, where they raised billions of CFA francs? It is also important to note that Amu Mezam has on several occasions allowed his transit buses to be used by the Republic of Cameroon regime to transport soldiers and brasserie products from Bafoussam and Douala into Bamenda and Boya to also transport people to fake massive participation during banned activities in Ambazonia organized by French Cameroon. For example, 11th of February, the so-called Youth Day, and the 20th May, the so-called National Day. Amu Mezam buses have been used to ferry La République du Cameroon citizens from nearby towns into Ambazonia. Also, Bamilekis are using Amu Mezam buses to smuggle brasseries drinks into Ambazonia. They keep on doing so, they continue doing so up to today. Some ignoramuses and regime apologists have argued that Ambazonians will be the ones to suffer if the Bamilekis go away with their businesses. That is a very very naive argument, because it is not the lack of business know-how and or capital that has prevented Ambazonians from running big businesses in their own land. It is not. It is rather the level of obstruction that the regime in Yaoundé places on Ambazonians. Whereas it is relatively easy for La République du Cameroon citizens, Francophones, to secure bank loans even without collateral security, it is near impossible for Ambazonians to secure a bank loan to start up a business due to crushing bureaucratic bottlenecks and sheer marginalization and a blatant intent to relegate and keep Ambazonians in a state of severe immiserization and subjugation. That is what is going on. Even when Ambazonians have the capital, have the money to start up a small business from which they can grow, La République du Cameroon citizens who run the offices where business licenses are issued make sure they absorb part of the capital in bribe taking in the processing of paperwork. A vexing situation happened at upstation Bamenda, where an Ambazonian was trying to get a land title for their family land so that a house could be built and put up for rent. This Ambazonian spent over 4 million francs CFA, 4 million francs CFA, over 3 years, and still could not get the land title. Determined as he was to build that house, he cut part of the land and sold it to a Francophone man. And guess what? Within 8 months, the Bamileki man had all his paperwork done, and his building was already going up. The building was completed, and since the Republic of Cameroon soldiers are now limited to where they can stay, the building is now occupied by a very high-ranking Betty army officer, and the rent is astronomical. For those of you from Bamenda, familiar with the Lands and Survey Office upstation, it is dominated by La République du Cameroon citizens. It is through that office that the Francophones have acquired almost 65% of upstation Bamenda. It is through that office, the Land and Survey, that Francophones easily acquire land titles for lucrative land around Nquen, around Bambui, and around Bambeli, and building mini-cities after the University of Bamenda was established. On Saturday, July 13, 2019, bikers in Kumba took to the street to condemn the killing of one of theirs, who was reportedly shot and killed on the night of Friday, July 12, 2019. The death of the young biker provoked indignation within his peers, who went out on Saturday in protest against the killing of yet another innocent young Ambazonian, another innocent young man. Following the protest march on Saturday, July 13, 2019, staged by the bikers, a 10-day ghost town order was placed on bikers by Ambazonia restoration fighters. The 10-day ghost town restricting bikers from circulating in the town of Kumba was meant to penalize them for trying to rise up against the restoration forces and for conniving with the government of French Cameroon and the military. According to news reports, even though the number of riders drastically reduced during the early days of the ban, some connive yet with the French Cameroon military and continued to operate. The divisional officer for Kumba 3, Vaclin Epolewane, took advantage and tried to lure the angry young men to denounce ghost towns, promising them government financial assistance. On Sunday, July the 14th, 2019, Colonial SDO for Kumba, Chamberlain Intu, a Francophone, issued a communique promising a reward of 5 liters of petrol plus an additional 3,000 CFA francs to each biker who would defy Ghost Town Monday and go to work. Whereas bikers who were indigenous Ambazonians refused the offer. A handful of their peers who were Francophones showed up for the bribe and made the mistake of posing a photo op with a colonial officer. The pictures were then circulated online, and within a day, some of the traitors were tracked down and arrested by Ambazonian restoration forces in collaboration with indigenous bikers. The traitors were Francophone boys, residents of Chanquota in Kumba. After those who were arrested were dealt with accordingly and then released, they and their other comrades who posed with a colonial officer but eluded arrest left Kumba. They ran out for good. That is one of the reasons, ladies and gentlemen, the Francophones, they must go. Now is the time for French Cameroon citizens to go. The Francophones in Kumba have made it a duty to always collude with the sadistic regime in Yaoundé. 20th May reminds us of our annexation. When we say no more 20th May celebrations, they show up defiantly. They have refused to celebrate their own Independence Day, but have chosen to remind us every year of the day that Ambazonia was annexed and then colonized. But please, listen to this one too. French Cameroon does not have enough military camps that can absorb the thousands of soldiers deployed in Ambazonia. And since it is now very, very risky for them to roam our streets, as was the case just over 5 years ago, some of them now use their relatives to blend into our communities. Some of the thousands of terrorists, La République du Cameroun soldiers, who are grandsons and daughters of the first wave of refugees who settled in Ambazonia, who arrived in the late 50s and 60s, are actually have their siblings still living, they have their siblings still living in their childhood neighborhoods, using those neighborhoods as hideouts to kill our people. They live there and collect intelligence on the movements of Ambazonia restoration forces. When you hear that our boys and girls are ambushed and slaughtered, it is because terrorist La République du Cameroun soldiers go back in disguise and live with their relatives and get the type of information they want. The Bassas in Fako are very, very good at this. According to our sources, every morning, these regime soldiers living with their relatives, dressed as civilians, get transported to the brigade or commissariat, where they change into military uniforms. Then they get transported to localities in Moyoka, where they kill and burn, and then get transported back to the brigade or commissariat, where they again change into civilian attire before getting back or getting transported back into their communities. They are operating like a secret police. They live among you, you do not know. You will never know they are soldiers. The soldiers who wreak havoc in Ikata, in Moyenge, and Bafia in Moyoka local government areas are mostly natives of Bassa, who live as civilians in their childhood neighborhoods in Tigo, in Motengene, in Victoria. Another example, ladies and gentlemen, is a police inspector in Northeast who died in late 2018 during a shootout with restoration forces as he was leaving Balenyonga after an operation in which 4 innocent civilians, Ambazonians, were killed and several homes burned. It was only after a worker at the mortuary at the Bamenda General Hospital identified his corpse brought in that she realized this man was actually a police officer. His neighbors in Ntamolung only knew him as a La République du Cameroun citizen. They had no idea he was a police officer and that he was a government worker. They knew he was a government worker, but not a military, a police officer, a military person. They had no idea, but he had lived among them for years. In Greater Fiango Kumba, the Bamilekis who own big cocoa and coffee farms, ladies and gentlemen, know all the back roads used by our boys and girls. They leak the information to terrorist La République du Cameroun soldiers who conduct ambushes and slaughter our boys and girls. The back roads from behind Kosala quarters to behind St. Francis High School to Mambanda are now dead traps, as Bamilekis in those areas provided intelligence to soldiers. In one particular incident, several restoration forces were ambushed and killed in Kosala quarters. Bamilekis Emeta quarters in Bamenda, a neighborhood where Lele Lafrique lived for a long time and still has a home there, a house there, ladies and gentlemen. They work with terrorist soldiers to disclose the homes of young boys they perceive to be members of Ambazonia Restoration Forces. Some of the boys were arrested and have never been seen again. Colonel Chinda Mbuziko Henry, he commands all of the killer squads in the so-called Southwest region, and he's stationed in Boya. He oversees the mass killings and mass burials in Boya. Soldiers under his command were responsible for the massive killings inside the Boya Central Prison. He personally supervised the torture chamber behind that prison. Recently, soldiers under his command arrested several boys within and around Boya. Those who could not pay 500,000 francs CFA to gain or regain their freedom were taken away and have not been heard or seen again. In one incident, soldiers under his command charged a pharmacy owner in Boya for selling abortion pills and ordered her to pay a fine of 1 million francs CFA or risk being transported to Kondenghe, the dreaded Kondenghe. Many of the killer colonels, commanders, and subordinates are La République du Cameroon natives living with their families or siblings within the Tiko Mutengene Victoria Boya axis. I can go on and on and on and on, making the case for Francophones to leave Ambazonia. But time, ladies and gentlemen, would not allow me to continue. Let me conclude this by once more reasserting to us all that it is within our right to decide who should live in our communities, in our country. Francophones in our territory are aiding in abetting genocide and other acts of barbarism. They are our enemies. As such, must leave. They must leave or face the consequences. The Bamilikis were told to leave the South, but they refused and were brutally flushed out. We do not want to go down that route, however. That is provided our patience and kindness is not tested. It is quite unfortunate that this is happening, but we have to do this because if they were brothers, if they were our brothers, they would have taken to the street challenging their government to withdraw their troops and stop the carnage, the genocide on our people. They would have demanded an immediate withdrawal of French Cameroon troops from our land. They have not. And so our patience is out. Ambazonia Restoration Forces, we enforce the order, and there will be no mercy. Thanks for listening. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the message. I hope it made a lot of sense to you. Again, the order has been out long ago. This time, it is not just a statement. This one is an action. We are appealing to all Francophones, please, we do not want you to be victims. We are not barbarians at the French Cameroon government and its army. We want you and your family to move out in peace and not in pieces. That is the message that this interim government is sounding out to every one of you. And yes, we have Ambazonians on the other side of the Mongo. And many of you are asking, what should they do? What if they are attacked? Fellow Ambazonians, at this time, they should not be there in the first place. And many of us are guilty of this. But the fact is that our people should not be over there. I've heard some people asking, what about the IDPs? What should the IDPs do, which are over there and in the bushes? Yes, there can be no safer place than home. There can be no safer place than home. We are at this moment appealing to every Ambazonian in the West region, in the littoral region, in the center and south, everywhere in the East Cameroon. Please begin to consider right now returning home, returning to the southern Cameroons, Ambazonia. Do not say you were surprised or taken by surprise. We are giving you this warning because we see exactly what lies ahead. And we are passing the warning to you also. Please listen to me. Listen to the sound of my voice very, very carefully and take the decisions you have to take right now before it is late. Before it is late. I can't say it any more than this. Again, that is the message. I will now open the phone lines to take a few calls. I'd like to hear from you, especially if you are on ground zero. Please go ahead, make the phone call. Let me hear what you think of this special presentation. All right, the phone lines are open, and I guess many of you have the phone line out there. If not, you have the line right there on your screen. All right, again, the phone lines are open and you can go ahead. You can go ahead to make your phone call. You can go ahead to make your phone call. The phone lines are open. The phone lines are open. And the number is there on your screen. And while I am waiting for you to make your calls, I would like to take this call from our correspondent on ground zero, who has some important information about the killings, about the abduction of Malam Danjuma. Malam Danjuma in Donga Mantung. I guess I am not getting that call to go through. Let me take this first caller here. Hello, sir.
Hello, hi, this is Vivian speaking.
I'm sorry, what's the name again?
Vivian.
Vivian, thanks for the call, ma'am. And where are you calling from again?
No, I'm calling from North Carolina.
Thanks for the call. What is your comment or question or contribution?
Yes, I just wanted the deadline. Do they have a deadline when the Francophones have to leave? Because the killing is not easy. It's a lot of our people are dying in their thousands. So do we have a deadline for the Francophones to leave Ambazonia? Because they have to leave.
We are giving them a little line to draw. We are then going to monitor what happens because we want them to leave voluntarily. That what will happen is if they are not leaving voluntarily, we then set up a deadline. That is the plan. Does that make sense?
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the call. All right. Let me get this other caller. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, Secretary Chris.
Good afternoon. Is this the one and only UN himself?
Yes, this is UN speaking.
Thank you for the call, sir. What is your contribution?
I want to thank you for the great job that you are doing. I just have one advice to the restoration forces back home. When they ask Francophones to leave, you don't have any obligation to go and take them and begin to interview them, because last week I saw a video in which restoration forces were asking Francophones is what La Republic is doing is bad. When La Republic they come for you, they don't ask you any questions. So we have asked La Republic people to leave. If possible, federally should follow them along. We don't have anything to discuss with them. We don't have no excuse because you might sympathize with them and do not take any money from any francophone. Thank you.
Thank you for the call. Thank you for the call. That is very, very critical. Ambazonian Restoration Forces have not, again, they have not been instructed to collect a dime from anybody. Not just Francophones, not even Ambazonians. Ambazonians Restoration Forces are not authorized to collect a dime from anybody or take anything from anybody. They have not been authorized to tax any community, And so, when Francophones are living, they have the right to live with anything they want to live with. If they want to leave it behind, that should be their discretion, not anybody's else. All right, let me get the calls. Hello, sir.
Yeah, this is Major Eric calling from the Netherlands.
Thanks for the call, sir. And what is the contribution?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Secretary Chris.
Can you tune down the volume of your set and focus on your phone, please? Mute the volume of your set, focus on the phone.
Yeah, okay. Now I've turned it down.
That's better.
My comment, or contribution, I just want to say, now, from my opinion, I also have another opinion on this issue of Francophones living, is that some of them, I think they are actually spies, because they have been sent by the Republic just to spy. Like the other time I saw a video of somebody selling bread and things like that. I don't understand how someone can come and be selling bread in a zone where there's war going on and things like that and be comfortable. Those are very suspicious kind of people, So I
think you are very, very correct, because I saw that particular incident in that particular guy. I think he was caught about 3 times. In spite of all the warnings.
It doesn't make any sense.
In spite of all the warnings. In fact, I think the people who were intercepting him, they were not Ambazonian Restoration Forces.
Not at all.
They were not Ambazonian Restoration Forces. They were they were Francophone military who were intercepting him and trying to send out the message that Ambazonian forces are trying to get Francophones out. That guy, it was a setup. It was a setup. It was a stage interception.
And that is what they do. They send them to schools. They sit there. Nobody knows where they come from. How is it possible these people can be going to school comfortably, going around where there's war? It is very suspicious.
Right.
And they sit there, they send messages, they use their phones and they act like spies, send messages to La Republique, and they come in the night and kill our people. So that was my comment, Secretary Clis.
Thank you.
Thank you also for the good job you are doing. Thank you. That's my contribution.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. I am looking for your calls, ladies and gentlemen. Looking for your calls. I wish to hear from Ground Zero. Okay, this is the first caller I can get from Ground Zero. Hello, sir.
Yes, 6 degrees. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. May I know what part of Ground Zero you are calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Meme County.
Okay, and what is the contribution, sir? I understand you have a lot of Francophones in Cuba in particular. I'm sure you listened to the presentation, and what can you tell me about that? Can you correlate what I said, what I put out there about Cuba?
Yes, the phone is, there are so many of them. And the information, hello?
Yes, I can hear you, go on.
Yes, the information I just want to pass is that now there are no lights in the southern zones.
Okay.
So I'm just watching from my generator.
Okay. Well, you don't have to worry.
so
They cannot outsmart.
Yes.
They cannot outsmart us. We will have to rebroadcast this. Check out. We'll have to rebroadcast this early in the morning and through the day on Ground Zero. So you guys don't worry about it. You will watch it on TV there. They cannot keep the lights shut down forever.
Yes, because on Monday they did it when you had the show, and today they've done it again.
Okay.
But I just want to say I really appreciate the effort people are doing, and that they should leave really, because they are really spies.
Right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
I think that's the right decision to take. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. I will get to the next caller. I need to hear more from Ground Zero. I guess this is from Asia. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. May I know what part of Asia you're calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from the UAE.
UAE. Good to hear your voice, sir.
Yeah, I'm calling from Dubai.
Okay, and what is your contribution? There's a lot of noise in your background. A lot of noise in your background. Can you move to a quiet place, please?
Is it better now?
It's a little better now.
Okay, sir. I want to start by thanking you for the excellent presentation. It was a very touching presentation, and one thing caught my mind in that presentation about the obtaining of land title. It is so bad in Bamenda that we used to pass through the Bamili case because they had the connections. We used to pass through the Bamili case to have land titles.
In your own land, in your own land, in your own town, in your own city. Hold on. In your own land, in your own city, in your own town, you have to pass through immigrants to get land titles.
That is how bad it is, and I am telling you before God and man, they had all the connections, and if you wanted it to be fast, you have to see the Bambili case because they have all the connections. If it is in Bambili, if it is in even Central Town, Bamenda, they have all the connections. That is why they acquire land anywhere they want, and it is very fast. They do it like magic. It's magical when it comes to them, but when it comes to us, you have to wait delays, but they have the straight connection. They call it connection. If you want connection, you have to pass through them. So that is how bad it was. And away from that, I want to talk about about them moving out. They have to go. It is too much. They have to go. They have beaten the fingers that fed them. They never stood by us. They stood against those who were hurting us, and they keep on insulting us no matter the fact that we are dying.
Yeah, I see. I read all their Twitter pages, their Facebook comments, and they are just horrible. They give us all sort of labels, as you can imagine.
I am so touched by your presentation today because they say they have the businesses, they are hardworking and stuff like that. They don't know that.
No, they are not. They are not hardworking. They are privileged.
They limit us. They make sure they push us to the background. They make sure they keep us low. We are like doormats that they stand on. They make sure we don't progress. And when they progress, they say it is because they are hardworking. They are not. They make the conditions favorable for them, and they limit us, the people who own the land. I want to tell you this: they have to leave.
All right.
Because enough is enough. Enough is enough. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the call.
We should set a deadline.
The moment we come for the deadline, we want them to move out on their own, because we know it is not easy to move a family and move property. So we want them to do it by themselves for now, without being pushed by anyone. We hope that they will not test our resolve or test our patience. Okay, thank you for that call. Let me get to Ground Zero. Oh, I think there may be a network issue here. All right. Let me see who else. All right, let me get to Germany. Hello, sir.
Hello, Secretary. Good evening from this end.
Good evening, sir. You are calling from Germany. Am I correct?
Perfect, Chris.
Okay.
Actually, I called you the other day to talk about this issue about Francophones living. Please, I'm so happy today because you said clearly that they must leave, and they must leave. One very solid reason why they must leave is because if they continue to live in our midst, they are going to infest Southern Cameroons. And in years to come, you will be realized that the whole of Southern Cameroons will be Francophones, and we will not have anything again
Well,
to say as far as the story is concerned.
I have actually stated that again and again and again and again that there is a danger. There is a danger if we do not get them to leave in the next 10, 20 years. The overwhelming majority in Ambazonia or Southern Cameroons will be Francophones. They have bought all the land. Listen to me, they have bought all the lands along Tico Douala Road.
In Limbe, the whole Limbe is owned by Francophones.
Correct.
That's the truth.
And all of Kumba Mamfe axis is owned by Francophones.
And very important.
So,
for our brothers who are in Francophone, one very important reason why they must come back is because they must know that home is the best place to be.
Correct.
So if they remain in La République du Cameroun, they are going to be like the same. They are going to be like the Francophones who are now with us in Amazonia, who are more like Amazonians now. And in years to come, what will we say? They become Francophones. And then they come back to us and they look at us the same as Francophones have invested our towns, and they don't even feel like going back. From there, it's a very big problem.
Right.
And I have one recommendation to give. If they are leaving, I think we should really implement this in one way, in another way. All cars that have Francophone number plates, like Littoral, Central, East, these cars should equally leave, because this is an example to show that Francophones too have left. If we still have these cars flooding our cities, Central region, Littoral region, then automatically we declare that Francophones are still with us. So we need to have cars flying our streets, which are Northwest region, Southwest. These are the number plates we expect to live to have in our cities. And these are some of the reasons why they should leave. And for our schools, we should start thinking about our schools in a sense that if we want our brothers and sisters from Francophone to come back to Ambazonia, then we need to start looking at our educational system now that we are about going for holidays. What are we going to do to let them be within our cities? Then we need to look at it like, okay, let private schools in our land be operational, and we shut down all government schools. And then from our local government areas and from our counties, we can now start to look at ways to subsidize some of these schools to let our children go to school. And then we make sure that Francophones are not in our schools, since they must have left. And we must put this into practice.
All right. All right. Thank you for the call. Thank you for the call. Let me get some other callers in. Okay, this is from the great state of Maryland. Hello, sir.
Hey, Secretary Chris, how you doing?
I am doing excellent, sir.
Yeah, I'm Charles calling from Maryland.
All right, thanks for the call. What is your opinion here?
Yeah, you're talking about all this Francophone should leave. Is that a way forward, or is that like another way forward, or what's going on? Like,
can you?
Like Francophone should leave, or everybody? Like, I know they in every case there's a victim, obviously, but is that a way forward? Like, is it going to help the struggle? What is the way forward now?
Do you think this is not this is not a way forward?
I'm just asking because the way this thing is going, because they have some kids that are Francophone kids that they were born in Southwest and Northwest. How do you call them kids when their parents are Francophone? How do you call those kind of kids now?
Did you?
Their birth certificates that they are from Northwest, but their parents are from, let's say, Bamileke.
Did you listen? Hold on, I'm not going to cut you off. Did you listen to my presentation in its entirety?
Well, I'm just listening to you right now, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then you missed the whole. I will ask that. Please go back, listen to it. You have my number.
What is the way forward? Our main goal is we're trying to focus the way forward. Is this a way forward? I don't know.
The way forward is driving French Cameroon out of Ambazonia in whatever we see feasible that would contribute to sending them out. We will engage in it. I will ask that please go back and listen to my presentation, and I think after you listen to it, you will not have to ask this question. If I may ask you, if you think this is not a good way forward, and remember, this is not the only factor we are depending on to get back our territory, but if you feel that it is not a good thing, what is your suggestion?
I mean, it's not what you're saying. It's not like you're wrong, Secretary Chris, but there's a way to put it. You know, in any society, they have a bad apple, obviously. You know, in any society, they have a bad apple. It's just like the white people say all the foreigners should leave America. You know, it's like I know it's not easy for you guys, but
no, the white people do not say all the foreigners should leave America. I think they are saying illegal immigrants should leave America. I think that's the message I hear, and there's nothing wrong with it.
But they were born Northwesterners, so they are illegal when they are born Northwesterners.
Well, they will have to determine. They will have to determine where to live. It is not you and me to determine that, and that is why we are not forcing anyone out. We want them to live on their own. We are not going to be. We're not going to be as brutal as their forces have been upon us. We are giving them the discretion to decide when and how to live. Well, thank you for the call. Let me get some other calls, but please go back, listen to the message, and you can call me back. All right, let me get a caller from Ground Zero. Hello. Hello, can you turn down the volume of your set, please? Turn down the volume of your set, or you walk away from it and focus on your phone. Hello? All right. I cannot accept your call if you are having your television on. Good evening, sir. May I know where you're calling in from, please?
From Ground Zero.
Where on Ground Zero?
Yeah.
Where on Ground Zero? What zone?
I'm calling from the Southern Zone.
Okay, thanks for the call. And what is your contribution, please?
My contribution is that there is no light. I'm using generator to watch.
Okay.
I just the presentation, what you said concerning the land issue. That is really practical true.
Okay.
Because if you are an Ambazonian, to get the land title, you might not even get it. And then what we also discovered recently are seizing land from what they call Anglophones and handing them to their so-called Francophone brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And if they discover you are really an Ambazonian, as they say, you never get that land. That's what they're trying to do.
Right.
So I think they should really leave. There's a lot of
it's a big tactic. It's a big tactic, a big ploy that most Ambazonians are yet to discover. That what is happening is they deny them land certificates for this land, and then from those same offices, they know where the piece of land is. They now send their brothers Francophones to go buy those piece of lands, come back and get the land titles.
That is what is happening, exactly. That is what is happening.
And that's why we are warning. That's why we are warning Ambazonians, if we are not careful, In the next 10 to 20 years, most of the land, the real estate in Ambazonia will be Francophone, and their population would have doubled, if not become majority in the territory.
Secretary Chris.
Yes, sir.
I think our lawyers know that, and they're hiding it.
Our lawyers, yes, because our lawyers know it. They're hiding it because they fabricate, they make those documents for them.